The shuttle doors hissed open, and a wave of cold, metallic air washed over Lucas as he stepped onto the platform of the alien palace. The place was enormous, far larger than anything he had ever seen on Earth, its walls shimmering with a soft, pearlescent light that seemed almost alive. He gripped the edge of his coat, heart thundering in his chest. He had been told he'd be welcomed, but nothing in his training or imagination had prepared him for the tension that rippled through the air. He wasn't just any visitor. He was human, alone in a galaxy where humans were rare, often regarded with suspicion or fascination. And yet somehow he had been summoned to the heart of the Zalarian Empire, a palace that seemed alive with whispers and the glint of jewelry that could fund entire planets. His mission was simple on paper: observe, understand, and leave. In reality, he had no idea what awaited him. The corridor before him stretched endlessly, lined with massive crystalline columns that reflected his uncertain expression. Every step echoed, and each echo seemed to carry a subtle hum, like the building itself was breathing. Then, at the end of the hall, he saw her. She turned and Lucas froze. The alien princess stood there, regal and terrifying in equal measure. Her crown glittered with turquoise stones that caught the warm, golden light, and her blue dress flowed like water, shimmering with an almost liquid grace. She was perfect, unreal, yet very much alive, and her gaze landed on him with something close to disbelief. Her eyes, striking and sharp, widened slightly. It was subtle, almost imperceptible if you weren't paying attention, but it was enough to make Lucas's chest tight. Shock, curiosity, maybe even a hint of fear. He could feel the weight of her unspoken questions pressing down on him. He realized in that moment that she hadn't expected him. Not really. I wasn't expecting. Her voice faltered, smooth and melodic, but there was a tremor, a break in the regal poise she wore so naturally. Lucas swallowed hard, trying to steady the rapid beat of his heart. I wasn't sure I should come, he admitted, though the words sounded weak even to him. But I had to. Something is wrong. Something you're not telling anyone. The princess's lips pressed together, and for a moment, she looked almost human, vulnerable, uncertain. Then she straightened, and the crown on her head seemed to assert its authority, even as her eyes betrayed the storm of emotions swirling beneath. You shouldn't be here, she said finally, but it wasn't anger. It was caution tinged with fear. This is dangerous, more than you understand. Lucas took another careful step forward, glancing around at the vast hall, the dancing lights, the alien symbols etched into every surface. His mind raced. Why had she summoned him, and why now? Something in her hesitation hinted at secrets that might not survive long if left unspoken. And yet, he said quietly, meeting her gaze, I am here, so whatever it is, I'll face it, with you. For a heartbeat, time seemed to stop. The chandelier's crystals refracted golden light across her face, catching the edge of her shock. And in that moment, Lucas realized she hadn't been ready for his arrival, not in a million years. And whatever came next, nothing would ever be the same. The faint sound of distant alarms suddenly echoed through the palace. Something had already begun. The alarms were subtle at first, just a low, thrumming vibration that ran through the floor beneath Lucas's boots. Then the soft, alien hum of the palace walls grew sharper, vibrating with urgency. The princess's eyes darted toward a series of floating, translucent panels that shimmered with light and symbols he couldn't read. Her hand trembled as she reached out, her fingers brushing the panels like she was testing their reality. They're coming, she whispered, almost to herself. Her voice had a sharp edge now, the careful regality replaced with something raw. They shouldn't be able to reach this far, not here. Lucas felt a chill creep along his spine. Who's coming? He asked. Every instinct screamed that she wasn't talking about an ordinary threat. Whatever it was beyond anything human. The princess hesitated, then slowly lowered her hand. Her gaze locked on him again, and Lucas saw the conflict flicker across her face, the same shock from before but now mixed with desperation. I can't tell you everything, she admitted. It's dangerous, but you've already seen too much to turn back. Before Lucas could respond, the floor beneath them shuddered violently. Dust and fragments of light fell from the ceiling, and the massive doors at the end of the hall slammed shut with a deafening clang. The princess stepped in front of him, a human gesture he almost didn't expect from someone so otherworldly. Stay behind me, she ordered, her voice firm despite the fear in her eyes. I need you alive. If they capture you, we're both finished. Lucas hesitated, heart pounding, but then nodded. He had survived worse in simulations, but nothing like this. Nothing where the person in front of him looked equal parts enemy and fragile royalty, all in one glance. The first intruder appeared without warning. A humanoid figure, but taller, faster, and entirely alien in its movements, materialized at the edge of the hall. Its armor glimmered with iridescent plates, and its eyes glowed with an eerie green light. It moved with lethal precision, and for the first time, Lucas realized he couldn't rely on his weapons to keep him safe. The princess raised her hand, and the air seemed to respond. A faint blue aura shimmered around her fingers, wrapping the intruder in a cage of light that sizzled and crackled. Lucas's jaw dropped. "You can do that," he breathed. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned her head sharply toward him. "Run if you need to," she said, "but don't leave me." Lucas made a split-second decision. He stepped forward, gripping the edge of the panel beside him, and hurled a small device from his pocket. It exploded with a burst of energy, knocking the nearest intruder back. The princess's eyes widened in surprise, then appreciation. Somehow, he had already adapted to this world faster than she expected. "Not bad, human," she said, her voice a mixture of amusement and tension. "But don't think you're ready for what comes next. They won't stop here." Before Lucas could respond, a second wave of intruders appeared, moving with terrifying synchronicity. The princess's aura flared brighter, casting long shadows across the hall. And in that moment, Lucas realized something chilling. She had been hiding more than powers, she had been hiding war. And he had just walked right into the middle of it. The alarms grew louder, echoing off the walls, as the first clash of battle erupted in the hall. Lucas's heart pounded in time with the explosions, and he knew one thing for certain. The princess wasn't ready for him, but he wasn't going anywhere. Something deeper than survival was at stake now, something that neither of them had expected, and nothing would ever let them forget it. The hall was chaos. Light flared and shimmered as the princess wove her blue aura around intruders, forcing them back with crackling energy. Lucas ducked under a swing of iridescent blades, barely keeping his balance on the polished floor. The air smelled faintly metallic, and every step echoed with danger. He wasn't trained for this yet. Somehow, he felt his pulse synchronize with hers, as if the palace itself had decided they were linked. "Lucas," the princess shouted over the roar, her voice both commanding and panicked. "Listen to me, this isn't random. They came for something inside the palace, something I've hidden for years." Lucas's mind raced. He had guessed there were secrets, but hearing her admit it made the stakes real. "What is it?" he demanded, weaving around another intruder who lunged at him with unnatural speed. Her eyes darted to the far end of the hall, where a massive, ornate doorway pulsed faintly like it was alive. "Behind that door," she said, her voice trembling with something he couldn't place, fear, yes, but also longing. "There's something no one else can see, something that could destroy everything or save it." Before he could ask more, a third wave of intruders slammed into the hall, stronger and faster than the last. Lucas stumbled back against a column, and for the first time he saw her falter. Not physically, her powers held, but the weight of the burden in her gaze made her seem almost human, fragile under her regal exterior. He realized then why she had been shocked when he arrived. She hadn't expected him, not just a human, but him, someone who didn't belong in this world yet moved with courage that no one else could match. Her carefully controlled life had no place for surprise, and yet here he was, refusing to retreat. "I can help," Lucas yelled, lunging forward to grab a fallen energy staff. He had no idea how to use it properly, but instinct and adrenaline drove him. He swung, narrowly deflecting another intruder, and the princess's eyes widened. "Impressive," she muttered under her breath. There was a flicker in her gaze, curiosity, admiration, maybe even something more, but it vanished as quickly as it came. She turned, moving toward the glowing doorway. "We have to get there. Whatever's behind that door, they'll kill us if we don't reach it first." Lucas followed, adrenaline making him feel more alive than ever. Every step was a gamble, every breath stolen in fear of another attack. And yet, as he glanced at her, he realized something he hadn't expected. The princess wasn't just powerful, she was human, too. Vulnerable, scared, carrying burdens that could crush anyone else. When they finally reached the doorway, the glow pulsed brighter, almost as if it recognized them. The intruders hesitated at the threshold, and for a moment the chaos paused. The princess turned to him, her blue eyes wide and unguarded. "Lucas," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the fading echoes of the battle. "I don't know if I can do this alone." He stepped closer, feeling the warmth of her presence and the gravity of the moment. "You won't have to," he said quietly. "I'm here. Whatever comes through that door, we face it together." Her lips quivered, and for the first time, Lucas saw her smile. Not the polite, distant smile of a royal figure, but a real, human smile full of relief, fear, and hope all at once. And in that instant, he realized something undeniable. She hadn't been ready for him, but neither of them would ever be the same again. The doorway's glow intensified, and the hum of the palace grew louder. Something unimaginable waited on the other side. Something that would change everything. The glowing doorway pulsed like a heartbeat, filling the hall with a light so intense it made Lucas squint. The intruders had paused, circling at the edges like predators wary of a trap. For a moment, silence fell, thick and suffocating, as if the palace itself was holding its breath. The princess stepped forward, her fingers brushing the shimmering frame of the door. Her eyes, wide and unguarded, flicked to Lucas. This is what I've been hiding," she whispered. Her voice cracked slightly, betraying the weight she carried for years. "No one else can see it. Only someone who isn't from here, someone human." Lucas felt a shiver run down his spine. "Why me?" he asked, though he already sensed the answer in her gaze. The shock, the hesitation, the quiet wonder that had never left her since their first meeting. She looked away, a rare vulnerability flashing across her face. "Because I've tried to do it alone. And I failed. I can't control it. Not fully, not without help, not without someone who believes it's worth protecting." Her hand lingered on the door, and the light inside pulsed brighter, almost as if responding to her words. Lucas took a cautious step forward. "Then we do it together. Whatever's behind that door, we face it together." His voice was steady, unwavering, and for the first time the princess let herself believe it. She nodded, and together they stepped through the doorway. The light engulfed them, blinding and warm, yet it carried an almost tangible weight, pressing against their chests, filling their lungs with anticipation. When it faded, they were standing in a chamber unlike anything Lucas had ever imagined. The walls shimmered with shifting colors, patterns that seemed alive and aware. Floating orbs of energy hovered midair, pulsating gently like breathing stars. In the center of the room rested a crystalline structure, delicate yet impossibly strong, radiating a soft blue glow that mirrored the princess's aura. "That," Lucas whispered, unable to tear his eyes away. "That's what they want." The princess nodded, her hand hovering over the crystal. "Yes, it's a fragment of my power, a core of Zalarian energy. It's dangerous in the wrong hands, and it's the only thing keeping our empire alive." Her voice wavered, and Lucas noticed the tremor of fear beneath her calm exterior. Suddenly, the intruders burst into the chamber, faster and more coordinated than before. Lucas instinctively stepped in front of the princess, gripping the staff he had barely mastered. He realized with a jolt that he was no longer just a visitor. He was a protector, a part of this world now, someone who mattered more than he had ever imagined. The princess's blue aura flared brightly, intertwining with Lucas's energy as he swung the staff, deflecting attacks with newfound instinct. "You see," she shouted over the chaos. "You belong here, you can do this." Lucas's heart pounded, and he met her gaze in that instant. Something unspoken passed between them, trust, respect, and a spark of something deeper, almost magnetic. For a brief moment, the danger faded into the background, replaced by a silent understanding. They were stronger together than apart. And yet, as the last wave of intruders recoiled, Lucas noticed movement in the crystal. A faint pulse, irregular, almost alive in its rhythm. Something was awakening, something that neither of them had fully expected. The princess's eyes widened. "Lucas, I think it knows we're here." Before he could react, the crystal shivered, sending waves of light cascading through the chamber. The air thickened, charged with energy, and a low hum vibrated in their chests. Lucas gripped her hand instinctively. "Whatever happens next, we face it together," he said. She nodded, her eyes locking onto his with unshakable resolve. "Together," she whispered. The crystal pulsed again, and the chamber trembled. Something ancient and powerful was stirring, and their real test was only just beginning. The crystal's pulse grew faster, filling the chamber with a vibrating hum that pressed against their chests. Lucas felt it first in his bones, a deep, unnatural energy that made his vision blur at the edges. The princess gritted her teeth, her fingers still lightly brushing the crystal's surface, trying to steady the force that radiated from it. "It's reacting to us," she said, her voice tight, almost breathless. "I've never seen it like this before. It senses intent, loyalty, courage. It's choosing who can handle it." Lucas swallowed hard, his hand still entwined with hers. "And if it decides we're not ready?" The princess flinched at the thought. Then it could destroy everything. The palace, the empire, us. Humans, you weren't meant to be here, Lucas. But somehow it thinks you are. Before he could process her words, a surge of light shot out from the crystal, blinding and beautiful all at once. Lucas instinctively raised his staff, but it was useless against the raw, shimmering power that enveloped them. The air thickened, crackling with tension. Lucas felt as if he were being tested, not physically, but in some deeper, unexplainable way. The princess's aura flared around him, protective and fierce. "Stay close," she shouted, her voice cutting through the roar of energy. "Let it see our strength together." Lucas did as she said, letting instinct guide him. He matched his heartbeat to hers, letting her presence anchor him as waves of power slammed against them. For the first time, he understood something impossible. The crystal wasn't just energy, it was alive. It could feel courage, fear, even compassion. And right now, it was judging them. A figure emerged from the light, a shadow within the crystal's glow, shifting and intangible. The princess gasped. "It's a projection, my ancestors. They guard the core. They've never allowed a human to touch it." Lucas blinked. "So why me?" The projection shifted closer, towering over them both. Its voice resonated in their minds, echoing with the weight of centuries. "The one from another world who chooses to stand with her may be worthy, but only if their heart is true." Lucas felt his chest tighten. He had trained for missions, for survival, for danger, but nothing like this. Now everything hinged not on skill, but on intent, on courage, and perhaps on love. He glanced at the princess. Her eyes were steady, fierce, yet glimmered with something soft, human. "I'm here," he whispered. "I choose you, we face it together." The projection seemed to pause, the chamber trembling with its silent judgment. Then, as if satisfied, the crystal's light shifted from a violent pulse to a steady, warm glow. The energy receded slightly, and Lucas felt the weight lift from his chest. The princess exhaled, relief washing over her face, but she didn't lower her guard. You passed it," she said, awe in her voice. "I can't believe it. No human has ever come close." Lucas shook his head, smiling despite the adrenaline. "I didn't pass it alone. You were there, every step." For the first time, she let herself smile fully, not the polite, distant smile of royalty, but one that reached her eyes. You surprised me, Lucas, more than anything else ever could." Before either of them could savor the moment, the chamber walls quivered. A distant roar echoed from the palace beyond, warning them that the intruders were regrouping. The battle wasn't over, not by a long shot. Lucas gripped her hand again, feeling the surge of power from the crystal beneath their feet. "Then we finish this together," he said, determination ringing in every word. She nodded, blue aura flickering stronger than ever. "Together," she repeated. And with that, they stepped forward, ready to face the forces that would challenge them, and the bond that had already begun to change everything. The chamber doors slammed open with a thunderous crash, and the intruders poured in, their weapons shimmering under the crystal's glow. Lucas tightened his grip on the energy staff, muscles coiled like springs. Beside him, the princess's aura blazed like a storm, wrapping around them both as if the crystal itself was lending them strength. "They've regrouped faster than I anticipated," she said, her voice steady but urgent. "Lucas, we have to hold them off, together." He nodded, determination flaring. "I'm not leaving your side, not now, not ever." The first wave of attackers lunged, and Lucas met them head-on, swinging the staff in wide arcs. Sparks of energy erupted wherever his weapon struck. Beside him, the princess moved with fluid precision, her blue aura slicing through the intruders like a living blade. Every motion she made was graceful, terrifying, and mesmerizing all at once. Lucas caught her gaze for a split second amidst the chaos. In that instant, he understood something deeper. This battle wasn't just about survival, it was about trust. They had no choice but to rely entirely on one another. An intruder broke through his guard, charging at him with lethal speed. Lucas felt a rush of panic, but before the alien could strike, the princess shot out her hand. A ribbon of blue energy wrapped around the intruder, throwing him back against the wall with a force that made the floor tremble. Lucas barely had time to process it before she was back in motion, her eyes scanning for the next threat. "Lucas," she called, urgency in her voice. "We need to protect the crystal." He followed her, leaping over debris and deflecting attacks. The crystal pulsed brighter as they approached, reacting to their combined presence. Lucas realized that every movement, every act of courage was strengthening it. Somehow, their bond, human and princess, was fueling the palace itself. Suddenly, a massive intruder, larger and more terrifying than the others, appeared. Its armor glowed with a sickly green light, and its eyes fixed on the crystal. The princess froze, fear flashing across her face for the first time since Lucas had arrived. "This one," she whispered. "It's the commander, if it reaches the core." Lucas didn't wait. He stepped forward, placing himself between the creature and the crystal. "Not if I can stop it." The commander charged, swinging a weapon that crackled with raw energy. Lucas braced himself, and at the same moment the princess's aura flared, intertwining with his own energy. Together they met the strike, and the chamber shook as a shockwave rippled outward. The intruder staggered, caught off guard by the human-princess combination. Lucas looked at her, breathing hard. "We can do this, we're stronger together." She nodded, eyes shining with a mix of relief, admiration, and something unspoken, something deeper. "Then let's finish it," she said, voice resolute. They moved as one, a perfect rhythm of human instinct and alien power. Lucas attacked with precise strikes while she controlled the energy around them, cutting down intruders with grace and force. Every swing, every movement pulled them closer, not just physically, but emotionally. The battlefield became a place where trust and courage forged a bond that words could never fully describe. Finally, with one synchronized strike, they sent the commander crashing into the far wall, defeated. The remaining intruders hesitated, then fled, leaving the hall eerily quiet. The crystal pulsed gently, no longer violent, as if acknowledging their victory. Lucas turned to the princess, chest heaving. "We did it," he said, awe and relief mingling in his voice. She stepped closer, her hand brushing his. Her eyes, wide and blue, reflected both the crystal's glow and something personal, gratitude, admiration, and a quiet affection he felt deep in his chest. "You surprised me, Lucas, more than I ever expected." He smiled, finally allowing himself a moment of relief. "I told you," he said softly, "we face everything together." Her lips curved into a small, genuine smile, and for the first time, the palace felt less like a fortress and more like home, because together they had become unstoppable. But even as they caught their breath, a subtle vibration ran through the crystal. Something ancient and unseen was still stirring. Their trials weren't over, not yet. The crystal pulsed softly, a heartbeat echoing through the chamber as Lucas and the princess stood side by side. The intruders had retreated, their shadows fading into the distant halls, but the air still thrummed with tension. Lucas could feel it. The palace itself seemed alive, watching them, testing them, waiting. The princess turned to him, blue eyes shining with something he hadn't seen before, vulnerability mixed with hope. "Lucas, there's one thing I've never told anyone. Not my council, not my advisors, not even my closest guards," she said, her voice trembling just slightly. "The crystal, it isn't just power. It chooses who can lead, who can protect the empire. It doesn't respond to lineage alone. It responds to courage, loyalty, love." Lucas's breath caught. "Love?" he asked, almost unable to believe it. She nodded, taking a step closer. "It knew you were coming, Lucas. The moment I sensed your arrival, it recognized something in you, something human, something real, something I couldn't hide from myself." He reached out, brushing a strand of her loose brown curls from her face. The warmth of her skin, the intensity of her gaze, it was overwhelming. "You mean, all this time it was waiting for us?" She gave a small, shaky laugh. "I didn't want to believe it. A human here with me, it seemed impossible. And yet, her hand found his, fingers intertwining, and the crystal's glow brightened, bathing them in a soft, golden blue light. And yet here you are. Lucas felt a surge of emotion, pride, relief, and something deeper, fiercer, and infinitely tender. Then we face it together, he said softly, mirroring the words they had repeated through battles, through fear, through uncertainty. Whatever comes next, we do it side by side. Her lips quivered, a genuine smile breaking across her face for the first time without hesitation. Together, she whispered, and the word resonated like a promise that transcended kingdoms, galaxies, and worlds. The crystal pulsed one last time, then shimmered into a calm, steady glow. The palace walls seemed to breathe out a sigh, as if approving their union, their courage, and the bond they had forged under fire. For the first time, Lucas realized that this empire, this alien world, wasn't a place he was intruding in, it was a place he belonged with her. Suddenly, a distant vibration rippled through the chamber, smaller, softer than before but unmistakable. Lucas tensed, ready for another battle. But the princess placed her hand on his chest, feeling the rhythm of his heartbeat. "It's over for now," she said. "The crystal is safe, we're safe." Lucas nodded, letting his shoulders relax for the first time in hours, feeling the tension dissolve. He studied her face, the regal crown, the turquoise stones glinting, the soft waves of brown hair, and something inside him swelled with admiration and awe. She wasn't just a princess, not just a ruler of a powerful alien empire. She was human, vulnerable, brave, and now, inextricably connected to him. "I never expected to be here," Lucas said, voice low. "And I never expected to meet someone like you." Her gaze softened, a subtle, magnetic pull drawing him closer. "And I never expected to need someone like you. Not this way." For a heartbeat, they simply stood there, hands intertwined, breathing in the calm after chaos. The palace lights shimmered around them, the crystal's glow reflecting in their eyes. Everything had changed. Then with a quiet chuckle, Lucas leaned closer. "Well, if the Empire survives, maybe we get to do this a lot more often." She laughed, a rich, melodic sound that filled the chamber. "Maybe we do," she said. And for the first time, her shock at his arrival had transformed into something entirely unexpected: hope, trust, and a bond strong enough to challenge the stars themselves. They stood together, human and alien, warrior and princess, heart and courage intertwined, ready to face whatever the universe dared to throw at them next. And in that moment, Lucas realized she hadn't been ready for him, but neither of them would ever be the same again. The palace hummed softly around them, a gentle reminder. Some arrivals change everything.